This was robust. But anyhow, so it is approved. We have a work plan. The very next item on the agenda was a request by a couple of the council members to have the Neighborhoods Commission take on another task. Having just approved our work plan, having spent I don't know how many months working on this work plan, I don't want to spend half the year working on the work plan for the other half of the year. We got our work plan, and the very next item is let's add some more things to it. And so there was a discussion where some of the council members said that we already had a very full work plan. How about having other groups work on this instead? And the question, so the issue is about policies for crime-free, multi-use housing neighborhoods, and it has all sorts of implications about safety in neighborhood, safety in housing units, but it also impacts homelessness in that if you kick out one person, because the entire household, because somebody has some record, what are the rules? What are the boundary lines? Where are the things? You don't want to have crimes in these things. There's a lot of discussions. I mean, hello, when I first moved to California, I got kicked out of my housing because my wife went swimming without a bathing cap. They wanted an excuse to kick us out of the house. I mean, they wanted to break the lease because they wanted to raise the rent. I mean, I know all these things. Yes, I'm ranting and raving a little bit, but I have my time for this thing too. Thank you, David.
That was a good example.
Okay.
I thought she went without her bathing suit.
Yeah.
They wanted to double the rent on the house.
Yeah.
That was the way to
Give you 2
do
more
it.
minutes for the other.
So there's a lot, I can see there's a lot of sides to this thing. I was just trying to become human here, that's all. Let me finish my sentence, I will get to your turn. The Rules Committee discussed whether the Neighborhoods Commission would be appropriate for it. They thought yes. On the other hand, they thought that we had a lot of stuff on our plate, so they recommended that it go to some other committees in the city council. I forgot the name of the other committees, but it's housing committee or public safety. There's some committee that did not
Let's go
have
somewhere else.
to some other commission, some other committees of the city council. And then they asked if we would have time to do this and give some input too. And I said that we had a lot on our commission, that I thought it would be appropriate if we had enough time that, and if there was interest here, that I would report back in a week what the thought of us doing this is. So we made no commitment other than in a week I will say, yes, we want to do it, no, we don't want to do it, we will be interested in doing it, but how much, limit of, what do we want to do with this thing? So it seemed like it's an important issue, it seemed like it'd be helpful for us, but we do have a lot to do, so Juan.
Okay, so I'll start out. I heard about a similar effort or the same effort a few years ago, and I do believe that this is a very important topic, and I did read the document that was provided today, and I think that the Neighborhoods Commission should take this on, but that we should not limit ourselves to outreach, that our work product should be a recommendation. If we do take it on, I wouldn't want us to be muzzled, right? We're not just here to hold meetings and facilitate meetings. And so 2 of the items that I'll bring up, when I read it, were probably the more troubling one for me is near the end of the crime-free lease addenda are the words, I'll read the whole sentence, or it's 2 sentences. It is understood that a single violation shall be good cause for termination of the lease. Unless otherwise provided by law, proof of violation shall not require criminal conviction. And so as I understand it, they're saying, hey, if you're accused of something, you get evicted. Now, the second troubling part is that this applies to other individuals in your household and guests. And so if your guest leaves and is accused of a crime, you will get evicted regardless of whether a crime occurred. So I believe that, again, this is a very important topic. I'm surprised at the implementation of a well-intentioned effort, and so I say we take it on, do outreach, provide our recommendation.
So I think the expectation is that we would not just listen, that we would make recommendations, because the council member that proposed this would seem willing to listen to, figure out what the exact rules should be. I mean, I think this is cut and paste from some other city's proposal. They're trying to customize it for our area here, so I did attend the Rules Committee meeting. There was a lot of public there speaking on behalf of this thing. It was actually agendized the week before, and the public spoke then too. So at two different Rules Committee meetings, there was dozens of people spoke on the public, and some of them spoke in support of this thing because they want to have safe housing, and some of the people spoke against it because of the way the rules were phrased here. And the council members seemed kind of divided as to what the rules should be and where to draw the lines. And so I feel that just like with the drones, we can listen to the community and figure out where to recommend lines to be drawn. I mean, if they're dealing drugs right from their apartments, that would be a good reason to kick them out as soon as possible. But if you went swimming without your bathing cap the week before, that's not a good reason to kick them out just because they wanted to raise the rent.
Or if you were accused of something very criminal and it didn't happen and there was no conviction, let's get real about this. But hold on, Larry, I just want clarification. There is a memo written by the city manager's office to the Neighborhoods Commission dated October 7th that says that today, the 14th, we, the commission, should focus on the following: options for outreach, recommendation to the committee about the type of outreach that should be conducted, and impact on our adopted work plan. There is no indication in this memo that, or a suggestion or request for us to provide a recommendation. What I am saying is, contrary to what was requested, I advocate that if we do take it on, we do provide a recommendation. That is our role, to provide the voice of the neighborhoods to the city council.
Yes.
I would concur with that statement.
Okay, so
I support that too.
I watched the Rules Committee meeting.
by you,
Huh?
by our TV.
Yeah, I watched the archived version of it. I couldn't fast forward it, so I watched it all, including the public comment. I personally feel, I'll summarize it, that if you watch all of the archived session, you will probably get 90% of the public comment that we could get in a year's worth of outreach. It was very well summed up from all sides, and it's not simple. The vice mayor summed it up after listening to all of the public input and talking with, or getting input from San Jose PD, San Jose Housing, and the city attorney. And the city attorney summed it up. This is a civil matter between private parties. It's not going to be a city policy. It's not going to be a matter of law. There's a body of law ad infinitum that deals with behavior and personal people's rights. And the vice mayor said, we don't know very much about this and it's very complex. And everybody else said, we'll go for outreach. After listening to the outreach and people speak, I don't know that we would have anything to bring to the party other than some mix of the sides of complexity. I read what was provided today. It would have helped me understand what I was watching when I saw it, but it still doesn't solve the problem. And I would give serious thought before we jump in and try and get in the middle of something this complex. Yes, it does need improvement, but how, I don't know.
How about our Jaime Angula? And wasn't he involved in this type of thing? Don't you go after the landlord? Isn't the landlord the person who we lean on in order to get the behavior of the criminals, taken care of?
That's a different program, that's the Responsible Landlord
Right,
Engagement
that's the name
Initiative,
of it, yeah.
where you have a problem resident and you go after the owner and it gets solved. It's entirely separate from this. I'm just pointing it out.
How is it separate? It's criminal behavior that is, it's kicked out.
It just, without going into detail, that's an existing program that the city works with Neighborhood Housing Services Silicon Valley on. It's been effective in instances, including my neighborhood, but it's separate from what is being proposed by a couple of council members. And so I just wanted to point that out. It's different. Whether or not you support what Neighborhood Housing Services Silicon Valley is doing or not, it's separate from what we're talking about today.
So I believe these are model language that is being recommended to be added to leases that then make it so that the landlord has an extra tool. In addition to existing city policies on how to evict a tenant, you have these other things that get added to the contract so you can evict a tenant. And the question is, what should be recommended to be added? I think the council is recommending the language that would be done here. And so we would perhaps have a say on what that language should be. Like, for example, I could see you saying if you evict somebody, you cannot raise the rent on the next tenant. I mean, that would eliminate the incentive to kick out somebody just to raise the rent.
I see it like from Rotary, Edendale, and how there's so much drugs and bad behavior on that street. And the city has come to like our church to say, can we go and help? Because there are good people in there and they're being, bullied by the behavior of some of these other people.
Which is why you do want to be able to have this.
Yeah.
So the question is where you draw the line. So that's what it is. But we're not here to solve the problem now. We're trying to decide if we want to have the time to solve the problem.
But evidently they need more help than the existing stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so hold on, Steve.
So on this issue, I think we should respectfully pass. I agree with David that the public comment has been abundant for years. I also think some of the implication is that we're being brought in to clear some type of impasse. And finally, if we do want to have a robust conversation, I think it's more in the vein of community policing, not this type of thing. I prefer to have a conversation that speaks to the broader community impact of crime in low-income neighborhoods, not just from the landlord's perspective, but from the community standpoint. And if we're doing that, we'll do that. If we want to drive that ground up, I'm totally supportive of that, but not this.
Okay, so, Terry.
Yeah, Terry, District 9. I'm in the same place as to what you just stated. We're off on a tangent again. We're trying to solve a problem. We're having a discussion. At the end of this, it's very simple. Should the commission take on the recommended outreach? I'm going to make a proposal that we don't.
Can we put that in?
Okay, so let's see.
And form of the motion.
Yeah. Finish the discussion.
So I understand that it's a complex topic, like the drones were, and we will have complex topics. And I can see why it would be recommended that the Neighborhoods Commission attempt to resolve this impasse, because I think like with all situations, we need a presentation by whoever the city advocate is for this. And I think that once we have more information, we could decide on a path. And the path doesn't have to be we recommend it this way or we decide we're going to tweak the language. We could decide that the Neighborhoods Commission, for example, believes that this is not feasible, and the city, we recommend to the city council that you not move forward. So I think that we are the perfect voice. The Neighborhoods Commission is a perfect voice. I know that I hear that there was public testimony for a couple of years. I don't know anything about that testimony. I don't know where that happened. Were there meetings? So I understand that there might have been a couple committee meetings and maybe, who knows, 15, 20 people spoke. So I think that we are here to voice what neighborhoods want, and if this is a good or bad idea, I think should indicate one way or the other. But I totally understand that we may believe that we may have too much on our plate. And for that reason, I want to pursue it. having said that, I think it's like homelessness. Some issues are just too important to not discuss.
I think I'm next. Yeah, I'd like to comment on this a little bit. I have to have some background on this issue because Councilmember James has spoken about it to me personally and to our group, the District 10 Coalition, on many occasions. I think we absolutely have to take this issue on, as this goes to the heart of why we're here. Our reason for being is to not only be a conduit of information from the community, the neighborhoods, to the City Council, but also to make recommendations to City Council reflecting the neighborhood's needs. In the Hoffman Villamonte District, the neighborhood of District 10 is one of the places where a lot of hands-on by the City Council member, by Candace, has made a real difference and impacted that neighborhood. But this issue is in every neighborhood throughout, in every district throughout the city, not every neighborhood, but every district throughout the city. So having, and whether it is a good idea or whether it is a bad idea, is something we should weigh in on in our, as a body reflective of our communities and our neighbors, our respective districts. So I concur with Juan that this is absolutely an issue that we need to take on. We must take this on, respectfully. This is the heart of why we're here.
Norma, did you want to say something?
Yes, I am appealing to agree with Dave and Nicole on this particular issue. In fact, as I read it, I'm wondering why the City Council could not come up with codification of the law. This seems to fall under the landlord-tenant. You know, it's a landlord-tenant issue, and we've got a quagmire of all sorts of issues in our neighborhood, and I look at it a little differently than the drone, definitely. Because the drone, we're talking about something, a possibility of something happening any and everywhere. There's a possibility of anything happening here too. But I think that this is an overreach, actually, for us. That is my 2 cents worth.
Larry?
Okay.
Okay, and I would just add is my, somewhere between 2 cents and a nickel on this is I tend to agree that this is outside of our scope, largely because landlord-tenant relations isn't even something that is normally covered largely under city regulations. It's a state issue. It's state law largely controls what goes on there, and this is literally a case of a city would make a recommendation of something that landlords in an area should do. The city probably can't require them to do that, and it seems like there's a lot of issues, and the other aspect of this is to do proper outreach. It would be outreach to tenants, landlords. It would require a lot of work, and if a lot of this has already been done, I don't see it as something where we're going to add that much to it.
Only the neighborhood commission can make a direct advisement to City Council. It's not all that other outreach.
You're out of order.
I am out of order.
So, so 2 thoughts. Going back to our charter, we are focused on areas not covered by other commissions. This issue is solely covered by the Housing and now it's Community Development Commission. They have dealt with this issue in the past. The
Safety and security.
They went through and dealt with the whole thing, just caused evictions. So this was something the council dealt with for over a year, about 5 years ago, and how to deal with problem tenants in this balancing act of when is it appropriate to kick them out. The council's been through this. I think the council needs to go back and listen to what they did. It's there. The second piece out of this is that Matt is right that this is really state issues, but the city does have a really good program that we offer for training landlords. And so this, from a neighborhood standpoint, I think there is a hook, which is how to resolve issues, and I think that's where Nicole was going, of what are the problems in our community, and this is a tool to deal with that. But I don't think, again, there's other places to actually figure out what the words could be. Our focus needs to be on that overall issues in the community, the rental program of the landlord training that code enforcement does with Tri-County Apartment Association, which is the folks that actually create these templates. That's really where that lives. And so I think if there's a thought that we have to forward to the council, we think it's important to look at ways to go and make it easier for landlords to deal with problem tenants, but balanced with protecting the rights of innocent people, I think is a fair thing for us to say and stop right there.
So you can just write it.
Yeah, and so we go through and we tell the council that it would be appropriate direction to go through for code enforcement, the work that they do with Tri-County, and maybe there's a working group that they go off and convene to go off and talk about this. Because they don't know who the suspects are, you know, the property management companies, Tri-County, and the tenants associations. That's what the Housing Commission deals with, is those people. But our direction is, we want to make sure that our apartments are a positive attribute to our neighborhoods, and that sometimes problem tenants do create problems, and that we want to make sure all the tools are on the table. But we want to balance them with the rights of tenants. And just stop there and not try to legislate ourselves, because it's not in our wheelhouse.
So I like the idea of just making a recommendation today, to be honest. What I can see is a couple of things. This topic is before us because a group of council members that are the Neighborhood Services and Education Committee, and I think there might be 5 of them on there, decided that this should come before us. And I know that topics have shifted commissions. For example, I just spoke at the Parks Commission about Rancho del Pueblo, which the Neighborhood Commission heard a few years ago. So who knows why this is before us. But it does seem like an important topic, and I like the idea of making a recommendation to the council to say, hey, stay out of this. This isn't something that the council should be working on. Or at the very least to say, like I said, what troubles me is the thought that someone could be penalized for being accused of something, or for having their guest or another resident being accused of something. I'm not against a gang member who is getting convicted or getting evicted if that gang member is living there, right? If that's their house or apartment, whatever it is.
So,
If you want to have an impact, then we need to take it on. If you don't want to have an impact, then we shouldn't take it on. So you're talking about wanting to have an impact one, I think we should take it on. You're somewhere in the middle, and it's, quite frankly, don't take this wrong, incredibly wishy-washy what you're describing.
I'm saying it's pass.
Yeah, you are saying pass.
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely was the heart of safety and security in our neighborhoods. I don't see how anybody could view it any other way. That's my perspective.
So I see it as denying the homelessness, because if you kick them out, you create.
Well, then we should weigh in on it, because if I have some preconceived notions about this, because I have a little bit of knowledge about it, and my direction is probably I'm tipping my hand somewhat. But if others want to impact this in the other direction, then we should take the issue on and then direct it the other direction.
And I don't want to see I don't want to see a grandmother and kids kicked out because the...
Okay, so we don't need to solve the problem right now. We're just trying to decide if we want to take it on. I'm going to make it a binary question. If we take it on, we'll have the time to do it. They want the answer, I think, by April, I think was the time they're going to make their decision. So we'd have time to have we already have a full work plan. So we'd have to have a special session or multiple ones, probably, I'm thinking probably meet at Roosevelt Center and maybe 1 or 2 other places and listen to the public for hours, and then write recommendations to the city council saying, based on what we've heard, we would make these suggestions on where the line should be. I mean, you do want to respect the safety of the community, but you don't want to kick people off for improper cause. How would we draw? We would come in, just like with the drones, draw lines and what we would recommend. So, but that would be work. It would be some number of months for us. And do you feel that's in our charter? We have been asked to do it, but we've been given an out because we can say that we're too busy. So we can go either way with this one. We were asked to do it, but then the actual motion said that if we had the time to do it. So let me phrase it as a binary question. Do we do it or do we not do it? So,
Is there a motion?
so,
One more comment, if I may.
okay, comments, and the public wants to comment too, so,
The product of any of that work you described would somehow fall into the neighborhood of paralegal advice to people, to that contract, to civil matter.
To the council.
A good point was brought up. If this is a matter of behavior and quality of life, community policing and the community in these neighborhoods can use resources and police and laws and such to help put their thumb on the scale of a better existence. Yes? People are getting,
okay. So
this is,
very-
yeah, anyway, my
very
point
quick
is, that,
public comment, or are you finished? I'm sorry, Dave. Were you finished?
I vote that we don't do it, but
For now.
Okay,
I would raise,
Motion.
I make a motion that we vote on a binary.
okay, so public comment very quickly.
Before we go.
Robert Aguirre again. I want to remind everyone that just before the city council went on vacation on July, they had a meeting in June to decide on priorities, and there were like 29 items that were on that list, where any of the council members could put anything up there and see if it's stuck. Well, Johnny Camus has been working on this for over 3 years, and he hasn't really changed his position on this. He had the opportunity to bring it up, and the whole council could have voted on deciding whether we're going to deal with that, like they're dealing with just cause eviction and rental rights and all this other stuff. This thing was not presented. Why he's bringing it up now, trying to put it into Rules Committee, is exactly the reason why they're giving it to you, because the council is not prepared to handle it. The other thing is that what they're talking about here is not making this all across the entire city. What they're saying is that there's specific neighborhoods where they want to do this. So basically what you're doing is you're condoning discrimination. And I would advise you to be very careful about doing that. And if the council's not really willing to take that on, why are they putting it on to you? Okay? So I would think about just exactly what this thing, the implication and the legal implication of what you do when you put your signature on this and say, we agree with this or whatever. So I just caution you on taking on this. If you don't want the Law Foundation breathing down your neck, I would suggest you just pass on this altogether.
Well, first off, we don't do anything legal, we only write recommendations to the council.
They're quoting all of these legal citations in here.
We only do this.
So, you have somebody, Terry, do you want to make a motion? Make it a binary one, yes or no? Okay, Juan, you may want to make, I mean, Terry, you want to make the motion, or?
I want to make a motion that we pass on this.
Yeah, mine's gonna be a little different. So we can,
So if you want to do it, you just vote no on passing.
no, but mine's a little different. So I think my motion would be to let the council know that we are passing on it, recommend that the council pass on it, and note the concern that individuals could be penalized without being convicted.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. So we're gonna make the decision and essentially make the recommendation about this sort of fury. You did, come on.
Okay, sounds like it's gonna be.
Motion, take it on.
Let's just do a binary, we're gonna do,
Okay.
we'll have I separate the question,
I rarely disagree with that.
I'm separating the question.
It's just that.
We're gonna decide if we're gonna do a special sessions or not, and if we decide to not do it, we can still discuss if we wanna write anything afterwards, how's that?
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, the motion is we will not take this thing on.
Correct.
We will decline the council member's request.
I'll second that.
Oh, you seconded it? Okay.
Third.
Okay.
There were 23 seconds.
All in favor of not taking it on? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 say don't take it on. And how many do want to take it on? 1, 2, 3.
Hey, I'll switch mine. I go back to take it on, make it 4.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't win.
Now we gotta go back.
Can't do that. Can't do that.
The motion to not take it on, no, we will not take it on. Okay, so that is our motion, we will just tell the city council. I am tasked to go to city council rules committee next week and say that we brought the issue up and we discussed it.
It was well discussed.
Concerned about it. We question whether we could bring anything more forward because there's already the work that was done 5 years ago by the Housing Commission.
Well, the council and the housing department for just cause.
Just cause. So,
I don't think we should over-explain. I think that.
yeah, I
Thumbs up,
understand.
thumbs down. It's just-
Let's keep it short.
Said no.
Exactly.
Okay, we
That's
just,
it, commission said no.
I don't think we make a recommendation as a subtext.
so there's a second, so did
Is
you
there a
want to make a
motion?
motion, a
Yeah,
second
you can
motion?
go.
So I'll make my motion simpler. So I motion that we recommend to the city council that they not pursue this and let the appropriate agencies and parties deal with this situation.
Language.
Your motion, clarify your motion. Your motion is that this body make a recommendation on the complexity of this matter with no further discussion other than what we've had thus far. And we're going to vote on that. If someone seconds your motion. Well, I sure hope nobody seconds that motion.
Wait,
Because that's,
I want to get a conversation going on.
No, come on. 14 minutes.
We don't have to.
Oh, voting is quick.
Okay, so,
It would be irresponsible for me.
so
not
you
to
are
make
making a motion,
Wherever it goes, it
you're
goes.
making a motion that we recommend that the city council not take this thing on, either that it is, what?
Right, that they allow the appropriate agencies or parties to deal with this. Because
Let
again,
them just- You're making a
that's why we're here.
recommendation.
That's his motion.
Yes.
Okay, and there's a second. Okay, any discussion on that?
If there was a motion to not take this on or take it any further, that should trump this next motion to do something with it.
No, the first motion was whether we will have any special sessions on this thing or.
No, it was, are we gonna take it on or not?
You don't want to
Take it on.
anything.
In favor or not in favor?
Let them decline.
End of story.
Let
End of story. And one other thing, there are neighborhood associations throughout the city. There's nothing preventing a neighborhood association or a district of associations from talking about this, collecting opinions on it, and communicating with their council member or the entire council. It's just this body has voted not to take it on.
So withdraw my second. That was my purpose, was to have a little bit of conversation around the concept.
Okay,
Thank you for the clarification.
so there's no second?
It can't be a second.
It's declined, okay? Okay, so I will tell the rules committee that we discussed it, and thank you, but we recommend that they pursue the other methods that they already. They've already
don't recommend
with the
anything.
subcommittee.
so we're not going to take it on. That's what it is. We're not going to take it on. There's not any further
Okay,
discussion.
okay, end of story. Okay. Staff report, anything from the city manager's office? Ernest, do you have anything from Michelle in the city manager's office?
She said to say hi.
All right.
Yeah, we have gotten a lot of stuff done, so I really appreciate it, and I will be continuing to work with her on the next agenda.